Okay. I'd like to call the Committee of the Whole meeting of December 9, 2024 to order. Good evening, everyone. My name is J.D. Patriva, Councillor and Chair of the Planning and Economic Development Committee. I would like to begin by reading a safety notice. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate council chambers to the nearest exit through the chamber doors and obey all instructions given, and if assistance is required, please see the Legislative Committee Coordinator. Okay. Once you've evacuated the building, please gather in the front parking lot outside of Town Hall. Please ensure your cell phones are turned off or on silent. And lastly, the Town of Lincoln Committee of the Whole meetings are posted on our YouTube channel. Closed captioning is available on all of our videos by selecting the closed captioning button on the bottom right of the video. Members of committee are in attendance tonight. We also have staff in attendance. Additionally, we have representatives from the Beamsville Downtown Business Improvement Area in attendance this evening. Welcome, ladies. Okay, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? Okay, I see none. Do members have any amendments to the order of tonight's agenda? Okay. We have no statutory public meetings this evening. We are now considering the consent agenda inclusive of Museum Advisory Committee minutes of September 12, 2024, 2020 Operating and Capital Financial Reports, FN 22-24, Policies and Procedures Project Update, LS 05-24, Age-Friendly and Active Community Advisory Committee minutes of November 7, 2024. The Director of Legislative Enterprise and Information Services, Town Clerk, would like to provide some comments. Julie, please go ahead.
Thanks, Chair Patriva. I just wanted to take this moment and thank the Deputy Clerk, Devan, for all her hard work and dedication and diligence on the Corporate Policy Program project for the Town of Lincoln, and all of the staff in all the departments who have contributed to its success, as well as IT. It's been instrumental in ensuring that this important initiative is now updated. The attention to detail, collaboration, commitment to excellence have not gone unnoticed. Devan has worked with numerous municipalities on our policy program, so a big shout out to her. And the program will have a lasting and positive impact on how we operate and serve our community. So I just wanted to say this quick thanks to Devan, as well as the corporate leadership team and all the other staff that have been involved in it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Thank you, Devan. Would any member of committee like to remove an item from the consent agenda to discuss? Councillor Michalak.
Thank you very much, Chair Patriva. Would it be possible to lift that item 6.3 that Julie was just referencing?
So we'll discuss.
At the end.
Yes, so we'll discuss that at the end. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Rinchman.
Because I have the same one.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so we'll deal with that at the end. Okay. So there being no further discussion, I have a motion moved by Vice Chair Murray that the items listed under the heading of consent agenda for Monday, December 9th, 2024 be adopted as recommended. Museum Advisory Committee minutes of September 12, 2024, 2024 Q3 Operating and Capital Financial Reports, FN 22-24, and the Age-Friendly and Active Community Advisory Committee minutes of November 7, 2024. I will now ask our Legislative Committee Coordinator to open the vote.
That vote is now open. And that vote is closed, and that carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Deanna. We will now begin the Planning and Economic Development agenda for this evening. We have no delegations this evening for Planning and ECDev. So reports. We will now consider item 7.2.1, Beamsville Downtown Business Improvement Area, BIA budget. Report EDC 03-24. The Director of Economic Development and Communications will provide introductory remarks. Mr. Deanny, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And just quickly, I wanted to extend a welcome to Chair Jillian Darchie and Executive Director Stephanie Hicks for their presentation this evening. As members of Council know, we do have a great working relationship with the BIA, partnering on a number of initiatives and events in the downtown core throughout the year. So very much looking forward to their year-end presentation and, of course, the discussion around their levy and budget set for next year. As members of council do know that their levy is completely levied through the BIA for their members in the catchment area, so no bearing or effect on the municipality's levy as well. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. So we have Stephanie Hicks, the Executive Director of the BIA, and Jillian Darchie, Board Chair, in attendance to provide a presentation. Stephanie and Jillian, please go ahead when you're ready.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here at Council to present our end-of-year presentation. As welcomed here, I'm Stephanie Hicks, the Executive Director of the Downtown Bench Beamsville BIA, and this is our Chair, Jillian Darchie, who will speak in just one moment. First, I just wanted to introduce you to our Board of Directors. We did have a change in our Executive Committee this year, as we had our previous Chair, Clayton Gilly, needing to step down. So Jillian Darchie is our chair, and then we have Heather, who is the owner of Creative Bug, Dawn, who is the owner of Pilates Experience and Physiotherapy, Clayton, who still remains a director of the board, Smoke and Moonshine, Nick with County Cycle, Mike Sheridan with Tim Hortons, Georgie Ventresca, who owns a Airbnb at 4204 King Street, Councillor Adam Russell, who you know, and Ray Darchie, who is our past chair. Now I'd like to turn it over to Jillian Darchie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us here. I'm pleased to reflect on the incredible progress and the achievements that we've made for 2024. I stepped into the role in transition, kind of taking over for Clayton and a lot of the things that he laid the groundwork for. So first of all, we want to thank the town for their support and the continued partnerships that we have. We've been able to do a lot of really great things for downtown, like creating, a vibrant downtown, places that people want to come to, events that people want to attend. So we're excited to kind of just show all that to you today, and thank you for your support.
Thanks, Jillian. Now I have the pleasure of taking you through some highlights, and we all know I'm a picture person. So first, under governance, we did complete our regular monthly board meetings. There was a staff performance review. We completed our 2023 financial audit. We hosted our annual general meeting. We approved the 2025 budget, both at a board level and then at our AGM. And I'm pleased to announce that our board opted for no levy increase for 2025 to the businesses. And right now, you are here doing our end-of-year presentation to council. Under advocacy, there was quite a bit of advocating for parking in the downtown along with the town of Lincoln. Municipal Act rewrite. This is ongoing through my role with the Ontario Business Improvement Area Association. We wrote a letter to our MPP to support more access to grant funding for BIAs. And this is, a lot of BIAs across Ontario did this just because of how we fall in the Municipal Act. We're not quite not-for-profit and we're not for-profit. So we miss out on a lot of grants based on that little gray area. And myself, I'm serving as a second term as Vice President for the Ontario Business Improvement Area Association. Under beautification, we maintained most of our beautification efforts, but there were some new implementations this year. First, I just want to highlight our Little Free Art Gallery, which I cannot tell you how much I love enough. This is located on Mountain Street, but Beam Street, where my office is. So I have the pleasure of looking out my window and seeing this unique space. And when people come to it, and it's such a creative space and it's such an intimate space. When people are looking in the cabinet and they're, leaving art and taking art, the whole concept is to view art, take art, leave art. And the art has been changing over with the seasons, with the holidays. At Halloween, there was quite a few little Halloween pieces put in there. Right now, if you were to go, there's some Christmas pieces. And it's everything from art supplies to full-on crafts to poems. It's such a creative little space. So I love that new initiative in downtown. And then also another great initiative, the board invested a $5,000 investment into Harvest Fest, and this was with partnership with the Town of Lincoln Tourism, Niagara Benchlands. And through this, we were able to create 3 different locations, one in downtown Beamsville, one in Vineland, and one in Jordan Village, that had really unique fall Instagrammable photo opportunities. And if Brittany was here, I'm sure I got that right. She knows Instagrammable is the right word there. And so that's our beautification efforts that we completed this year. events and promotions, you can see we have a full roster basically from February to December. And I'll also list if we partnered with an organization, who we partnered with as I go through these. But Local Love Letters, this was an initiative that was new this year, and we had about 30 submissions. This was the opportunity for community members to fill out a Google form to write a local love letter to their favorite downtown business, and we even had some that wrote to businesses that weren't downtown that we designed a little Valentine out of and then posted to social media. But it was really special to see what the community was saying about the businesses and why they love them so much. Family Day weekend, the BIA had the pleasure of sponsoring free skating at the Fleming Center, as well as we bring in popcorn and cotton candy to cover Friday to Monday, anybody participating in that weekend. The Downtown Tidy, which this is typically our 1 hour trash mob, we thought that 2023 would be our last year with West Niagara High School leaving the downtown area. However, through a wonderful sponsorship with Switzer Carty, that we were able to transport the students from West Niagara into downtown to complete that 1 hour trash mob. And this is the second year that we also were able to welcome the grade 7 and 8 students from Jacob Beam, who do an amazing job as well. So that we're able to maintain our Earth Day 1 hour trash mob. Community Service Day, we partner with Great Lakes on that. The high school students come into the downtown, they take a couple hours, they're washing windows, they're weeding gardens, they're sweeping parking lots. Some have even been have painted businesses' frames in the past. So that's a great partnership that we have with the students there. This year, we did a pride installation in downtown at the chalkboard. We partnered with the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce on that in June. Our downtown story walk, this was a story walk. This is our third year doing it, and it is growing. This year, we had about 250 people read the story. This is a story that's posted up on business windows. And they come and they do kind of a little scavenger hunt through downtown. We partner with the Lincoln Pelham Public Library on this one. This year in particular, the story was called Deer Street, and it was a story about a little girl who was walking around her street, and there was a lot of adults kind of grumbling because there was a lot of construction going on. So she took the opportunity to write a letter to her street on what she loved about it, and she hid it throughout the street, and so the community was finding like these little letters. So with that, we did an online form where community members could write a letter to the downtown on what they love about the downtown through some construction times. Roland Rotary, this was our second year hosting this event. A big thank you to Director McKay working with us on the logistics of having the first ever family foam party. It was a huge success. You can see the bottom right of your screen. That is the one photo from that, but it was a 1 hour foam party and it was packed the entire hour. It was so much fun. It was a wicked hot day and the foam was really cooling as well. But we did also keep up with our bike parade. It was a Super Mario theme, so we had Peach, Mario, and Luigi. They brought plasma cars. It's a great free community event to kind of end cap summer before school goes back. Truth and Reconciliation, we had the honor of sitting on a committee with the town of Lincoln to do a downtown walk for Truth and Reconciliation. And we will maintain on that committee for 2025 and look forward to growing that. And then Fling Off King, we partnered with the town of Lincoln on that in September. This year, as many of you know, we changed the location to be off of King Street to the Fleming Center, and the day was just as packed. Weather was not so great on our side that day, but that's okay. It rained more than I thought it did, but people, stayed out in the rain. So it was a great packed event as well. And then Pick a Path Pumpkin Adventure and the Pumpkin Party. We partner with the Lincoln Pelham Public Library and the town of Lincoln on that for the end of October. Link the Elf. The elf is out right now. If you're following our social media, you can see he's already super busy. I actually just fielded a text right before here on when he's being picked up and where he's going next tomorrow. So he's a pretty busy elf from now until December 24th. And then our Christmas Hamper Angel program, this is through Community Care West Niagara. This started 3 years ago when we were informed that come Christmas time through this program that Community Care runs, they end up with a lot of single senior profiles that don't get sponsored. So the BIA took it among themselves to sponsor those remaining profiles. And this year, it has increased. And this year, we are sponsoring 26 profiles. Here are just some pictures for you to enjoy. I tried to take them from kind of each event that we maybe hosted, but it's very hard to choose events for presentations, I'll be honest, because I want to put them all in there. And more pictures. You can see at the bottom left there, that is at the chalkboard area. That is a piece of Harvest Fest. It did not look like that through all of Harvest Fest. That was just during our Halloween event. It kind of got adorned with some cobwebs and bats, but if you envision them being removed, that was the Instagrammable photo opportunity location in downtown Beamsville. So just some marketing stats for you, and I will preface that this does include our Downtown Bench social media platforms, but also we run the Fling Off Kings, so it's incorporated, those stats are incorporated in that as well. And it also includes any paid boosts as far as our impressions and our reach goes. But also to note, just our age and gender, who mostly follows us. But the one thing I did actually want to really highlight here was our MailChimp stats. Anybody in marketing knows that the percentage of open rates that you get on many newsletters or informational pieces is like, if you get 25%, that's a good number. So the fact that we had 10 membership notices sent out, so this is direct just to our businesses in downtown Beamsville, so whether that was about, you know, advocating for parking or the change in parking or construction updates or our AGM, anything like that, you can see that our open rate on those is 64.4%. And our 12, we send out a monthly newsletter, typically on the first of every month, to over 1,000 subscribers, and our open rate on that is 55%. And that's mostly community members. And here are some comments from our social media. I tried to take a comment from each of the initiatives, so if you kind of look at the logos, you can queue up what that initiative was. But some that I just want to highlight for you, like our local love letters, there, My Niagara Online commented, "We just love this. Going to share a notice about your local love letter campaign in our community news tomorrow." The Pride installation, bravo, inspiring to see a BIA promoting inclusiveness and the celebration. On the downtown story walk, Lindsay commented, "This is so, so wonderful. Thank you for sharing Deer Street with so many people and spreading community love." That's the author of the novel. She commented that on our social media, which was really great to see. Roland Rotary, there's some great comments there, but also the one I want to highlight was BCM Insurance. We applied for a grant and we received it this year for that event in particular. And their comment was, "We're thrilled to support such a fantastic event. It's great to see the community coming together for Roland Rotary. Thanks for all you do to make the region amazing." So there's just some social media comments for you. And then this slide, usually I kind of give little tidbits into the future, but I really wanted to focus. So we completed our strategic plan last year, 2024 to 2027. So any initiative that we take on or bring to our board meetings, we really need to bring it back to our strategic plan and make sure that we're following our themes that are to unite and connect. So our 5 themes are always going to be customer attraction, member engagement, meaningful spaces, which is, we really want to build on the artful experience that we're creating downtown, stakeholder alignment, and organizational effectiveness. We cannot do what we do without having our sponsors, our partners, our members, our volunteers, and especially the town of Lincoln. I think pretty much every department in the town of Lincoln has helped us in one capacity or another, and we really appreciate that partnership that we have. So thank you. This is just a contact us slide in case you don't know where the BIA office is. And that's it. Are there any questions?
Okay. Thank you very much, Stephanie and Jillian. Yes, there are questions. So Councillor Timmer, start us off, please.
Thank you very much, Chair Pachariva. You know, I always enjoy when you come every year with what's been happening in the downtown, because it's just getting better and better every year, and I don't know how you keep coming up with such creative ideas, but it's amazing. And I can see why the open rate's so high, because I love to read the newsletter and see what's going on. So, question around the King Off Fling. You know, I did attend, and I thought it was fantastic. I think the move was brilliant. I'm just wondering what kind of feedback you received around that.
Sure, through you, Chair. The majority of the feedback was very positive on the move. Having the larger space, especially for the kids' activities. This was the first year we brought in Bethesda asked to be involved, and they had a whole sensory-friendly area, which is really important to ensure that our event is also being inclusive to all the families in Lincoln. So I would say overall, very, very positive on just the more space and being able to implement more kids' activities based on that space.
No, it was great. Having the washrooms, the Fleming Center right there is fantastic. Through you, Chair. So we recently made some changes to the parking in the downtown area. I'm just wondering if you have have you seen any major improvements happening, or can you comment on that at this point, or is it too soon?
I can comment a little through you, Chair. So first of all, we have parking passes that we distribute to the businesses for their employees to now, with the agreement to park at the BDSS to offset, because that's one of the biggest issues is the employees parking in the downtown, which takes up the space for the customers. So I can say that we have distributed 130 parking passes to businesses for employees. That's not, I mean, that's encompassing, I think this is our second or third year having the access to the BDSS. However, since the bylaw did change, there's been a huge increase. I would say we've given out the majority since that time. It's just about education. So I know the town is doing a great job through their socials and their newsletters, and we're putting in our newsletters. And it's just educating, it's the businesses educating the employees on the new changes to parking.
Great.
So not too soon to tell, but there hasn't been too much either.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you both for being here tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Timmers. Councillor Michalak.
Thank you very much, Chair Patriva. Through you to Stephanie and Jillian, thank you for all you do. I know you're doing a great job because I do hear about it from other, residents in the community. So much so that I'm being asked about Vineland. Has there been any consideration, or is there any talk or anything about perhaps looking at Vineland as part of the Beamsville BIA? I know we've talked about this before, but I'm not sure if it's gone anywhere or if it's being considered.
Through you, Chair, I will answer as best as I could, and then maybe I'll pass to Director Deaney to see if he has any comments. BIAs, we fall under the Municipal Act, so it's not insurmountable, but it would we would have to engage a lot of work with the town of Lincoln, which happy to do that. On a personal level and with my role as Vice President of OBIA, would I love to see a BIA there? Yes, but that's just my own opinion and comments. But it's not, I don't think it's something that the downtown Beamsville could just expand a catchment area. We'd have to engage the businesses in Vineland and go through that whole process. Which our board did have to go through that with Director Deaney in 2019 to expand our BIA and get a bylaw. So it would be a similar process, and it would probably be about a year-long process to do. So it would take a considerable amount of time as well, but not insurmountable.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the councillor. So it's a good question, councillor. I think various years that we've done our business walks in downtown Vineland, we've had a few businesses that have kind of broached the subject a little bit. According to the Municipal Act, typically what needs to happen is the businesses would need to approach the municipality to ask for a BIA to be created there. We could proactively go out and start some of those discussions. We have had some, but nothing on a more formal basis, councillor. To Stephanie's comments in terms of how long it would take, I mean, creating a brand-new BIA would probably take longer than the year that was just given. But, it's something that I would like to see down the road, councillor. I know we've had some conversation with the business owners around re-envisioning what downtown Vineland could look like. I think the BIA conversation would need to be part of that discussion.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. I think it's just like, I do hear from residents about Vineland, Beamsville, and I explained to them, well, Beamsville has a BIA. Vineland would have to consider a BIA. I'm not sure where those conversations have gone. That's why I look forward to this presentation to see where we are with it and perhaps if we should be looking at it further, especially with the significant stakeholders within that area. That's why I bring it up at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mikulak. And Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the presenters, not necessarily a question, just a comment. Again, thanking you both for being here and all of your hard work and all of the board for this past year. Again, 13 events and promotions over the course of 12 months is exceptionally busy. And the execution rate with which they were completed was fantastic. So again, both of you have done an excellent job. Jillian jumping in for Clayton. I know he's watching. He says he watches every meeting. So our clerk's department, we're getting a little bit extra viewership. Shout out to him. And again, it's been an extraordinary year, and I'm so thrilled, both as a board member, as a councillor, to see the genuine positive relationship between the BIA board, Steph, you as our ED, and our staff. I know, like, over the course of the year, you work with Director Bruder and the bylaw department to go through on the parking. Director Graham and his team with construction on Ontario Street and downtown. Obviously, Director Deanne with the ECDev team. Like, it is constant. And soon, Director or Treasurer as well to talk about some of our finances. It's one of those things where every time that something comes up, again, both sides are equally trying to work well together to get everything completed in a timely manner and in a fashion that is going to be best for the stakeholders involved. And it's so great to see that working relationship, so I greatly appreciate that. And I also want to acknowledge, again, it is a very tough year with the construction on Ontario and downtown. Again, the traffic for the businesses hasn't been all that great, or it's been impacted by some of that construction. And again, I think having that flat budget is being very respectful. I know we hashed all this out during our finance discussions, but it's being very respectful of our current environment. And I think the buy-in from all of those businesses that everybody's in it together, and we're going to try to get through over the next few months once construction on Ontario Street finishes and we start moving on to other areas, because it's not really going to stop, it's just going to move. Again, we're going to see a lot better days ahead for all those businesses. And again, I just appreciate everything you guys have done, so keep up the great work. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Councillor Brunei.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Stephanie and Jillian, thanks for the presentation. Thanks for all the work you do. So you made comments about Fling on King, and you referenced construction a few times. So I'm wondering, from the business perspective, what are you hearing specifically about the construction? Like, how much angst is there amongst the group?
So through you, Chair, I will answer from my perspective, but then I would love to get Jillian's perspective, because she has a different sort of ear to the ground than I do as far as business to business, and I'm membership as a whole. The one thing I will comment on the construction is that our businesses are doing a fantastic job on their own social medias of putting up detour routes, reminding people, and that's great, because then we're able to, repost that and reshare that. So I will say that they, are definitely being proactive on their particular posts on when there's a closure, how to get there, if it's impacting their hours at all. So they're being very proactive on that, but I'll let Jillian comment.
I mean, I do hear that the construction is absolutely frustrating for people coming downtown, especially if you're not familiar with downtown and you're coming in for the first time and maybe trying to get to an appointment or trying to be somewhere, and then you're kind of late, and it does affect kind of the mood and the convenience of downtown. So I think, like Steph said, it's just a matter of educating. For my clients, they're coming, sometimes daily, and so just making sure that they know, prepare, take an alternate route. Sometimes we start our classes a little bit late, like you have to modify to make sure, okay, last thing you want is somebody rushing to yoga, feeling frustrated and knowing that they're going to be late. It kind of fights what we're trying to do with reducing stress, but at the same time, people have to understand that we're trying to just make these improvements to the town and that it's necessary. So it's workable, but I mean, it is an issue. It is an issue, I will say, yeah.
Thanks for your honest response. So it's been referenced a few times. We're making change with the bylaw for parking for the 4 hours to 2 hours. you know, quite often when I drive through town late at night, I see cars parked, you know, on the downtown, you know, main corridor, like across from Sassafras, in front of Dean Allison's office. So the people that live in the apartments up above those businesses, what is their parking arrangements as a tenant?
So
Do we know?
yeah, most tenants that I know that live downtown above some of the businesses are parking in the back. And there isn't specifically allotted, like with my lease, for example, I do have a spot, but it's not always there, it's not always marked. I don't see that it's a lot of the residents that are using the main spots on King Street as parking. They're more parking in the back, or I'm not even sure if they have, you know, vehicles that they're working with. A lot of it is kind of on foot. But yeah, I don't think it's a residential issue with the parking. I see it more as employees that leave their car there, or, yeah, like if it's at night, it might be some business, it might be the Yoga Vine that's using that parking. Some businesses look closed, but we're open till 9 o'clock sometimes for classes, so, yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for all the hard work you do. It's not going unnoticed, and it's great to see when you go through those events and all the different things that you're running, you know, every month, to see the collaboration and the partnership that you've engaged. You reference Great Lakes Christian College and a number of different things and organizations. It's wonderful to see the collaboration that's moving some of these things forward. So thanks very much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Mayor Easton. Thanks, Council Brunei.
Oh, thank you very much. I also want to reiterate just the amazing work that you're doing with programming, and there just doesn't seem to be any end to your creative ideas, and the volume as well. Really, some of these things, the local love letters, I'd completely lost sight of that one, but it was very interesting to see that Link had been to church sometime over the weekend.
He was.
I wasn't too sure. Was he just there for the show up, or was he actually there for a little bit of spiritual?
He was there for the Advent service, spreading peace.
Well, that's great. It is very encouraging, and I will certainly reinforce, Mr. Chairman, the town has made a large investment over the years. It was absolutely the right thing to do at the time, but I don't think we ever realized just really how much of a good idea it was, because you've really gone way beyond anything that I ever expected. And I'd like to see us do something formal with Vineland, if only to help to settle the question on the issue. It may not be possible to do something, but it would be very beneficial, I think, for them to see what their opportunities might be. There are people that are keenly interested. So I hope that there will be a way to continue the conversation, at least to bring some closure, or for them to possibly make a minor commitment and see where it might go. Because Vineland is also becoming very active. And I think one of the people that just opened a business there in the last year actually has background with BIAs, which would be beneficial. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, ladies, for the work that you do. I think from my time on TVTA, the businesses in Jordan used to pay a separate levy, or a separate membership to be part of Jordan Village Merchants Association. So that might be the easier hill to climb, because a lot of them have experience there if you're looking to branch out. Just two quick questions for you. And I asked this at our budget time too. Single-day events, any thought of expanding them into multi-day events, just to cut down on weather issues? I mean, Fling on King was terrific. I got soaked to the you-know-what walking home. But I did walk, right? So it was close, but like, just because it might have kept people away. And if it's a multi-day event, your thoughts on that?
Through you, Chair, I would love to make it a multi-day event, but with that does take staff capacity and budget. So we would really need to increase those two items in order to be able to do that.
Okay, terrific. And one other thing, because I get a resident every year that asks for this, and you had it in your notes under beautification, Canada Day decor. So it infuriates him to no end where he drives up to Thorold and he sees Canada flags all over the place and they proclaim themselves, Canada's most city with flags, right? So he's like, can we get some flags downtown? Is that on your radar at all?
Well, through you, so yes, so it's on our list of,
Okay.
of this previous year. But I'll be honest, that was a short-term solution with what we kind of had in-house, and so it wasn't. We did speak, and I think that'll be a larger conversation to have with the town of Lincoln, because we do have banners up right now. So in order to flip them to Canada Day ones would be, not only art design, but also the actual installing them. So I think it's definitely worth having a conversation about. It did come up at our meeting when we did that kind of quick turnaround on the decor, and we did flag it to have a larger discussion for 2025.
Okay, terrific. Yeah, because whether it's flipping banners or adding a flag to, an actual Canada flag to the what's the word I'm looking for?
Facade.
No, the hardware that's already up, right? It might be an easier fix, so, but thank you for that. So I can tell this resident that it's on the radar, so thank you very much. There being no further discussion, I have a motion moved by Councillor Russell. That committee receive and file for information report EDC 03-24 regarding Beamsville Downtown Business Improvement Area, BIA, 2025 budget and presentation attached as Appendix C. The committee recommend that council endorse the 2025 operating budget for the Beamsville Downtown Business Improvement Area attached as Appendix A to report EDC 03-24 in the amount of $165,000, and that committee recommend to council that the levy portion of the operating budget for the Beamsville District Business Improvement Area in the amount of $105,000 to be approved. And that committee recommend to council that the treasurer be hereby authorized and directed to make arrangements to levy an amount of $105,000 against rateable properties in the Beamsville Downtown Business Improvement Area pursuant to Section 208 of the Municipal Act 2001 and the Town of Lincoln bylaw number 2019-16 to levy the 2025 budget as referenced above. And that committee recommend to council that the schedule of payments for 2025 be in accordance with the Town of Lincoln tax payment schedule. I will now ask our legislative committee coordinator to open the vote.
That vote is now open. That vote is closed, and that carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Deanne. For the reports for the Planning and Economic Development Committee agenda, I will now ask the legislative committee coordinator to transition to our next committee agenda.
Thank you, Chair Patriva. I will be moving the gavel to Councillor and Chair Lynn Timmers to assume the chair at this time for the General Business and Finance Committee agenda.
Thank you. We will now begin the General Business and Finance Committee agenda. We have no delegations. Under reports, we will now consider Report FN-21-24, Asset Retirement Obligation Policy. Do members of committee have any questions? Mary Stin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm sorry for interrupting. I was trying to establish whether two items would come under this policy. One being BDSS, because it falls under the category of a new purchase, and some of the surveying of the building to see what is there. And the second one is in relation to the property on Quarry Road.
Thank you, Mary Ston. Those were two things that I considered as well when I was reading the report. Through to staff, is there someone Charlotte, you can take that?
Sure, through you, Chair, to the Mayor, and I know our Deputy Treasurer is attending remotely and did prepare this report as well, but yes, basically any property at whatever point the town owns it, if there is a liability pertaining to the asset retirement obligation, then we would need to record that.
And so, Madam Chair, I'm trying to work my way around this report because it is a little bit different. Let's use BDSS as the process and make an assumption that we've owned it for 10 years. How would we handle any items that might come up? Say it has asbestos in it. I'll just use that because it's probably obvious.
Go ahead, Charlotte.
Through you, Chair, to the Mayor. So in our 2023 financial statements, we did record the asset retirement obligation for all of our existing assets. So if we take on a new asset, as soon as we take ownership of that asset, we would need to do an assessment of the potential asset retirement obligation and record it. There's a few ways that we could do it, but typically we're looking at items like the age of the building based on what we know is typical for a building of that age. And then it would be recorded in the financial statements for the year end after we purchase. So if we take ownership in 2025, then on the December 31st, 2025 financial statements, that additional asset retirement obligation would be reflected.
And so, through you, Madam Chair, does the fact that we're considering the condition of assets have an impact on work that needs to be done, or is that a totally separate issue?
Through you, Chair, to the Mayor. This policy, it does reflect mainly an accounting policy. So the issue at hand with this report and with the financial statements has to do more with how we reflect that anticipated future cost in our financial statements. But whether we would take that information and use it in order to help make decisions for the future or use it to be cognizant of costs that are anticipated down the road, I think we would use that information in order to prepare. And I think, in our budget, we had a lot of talk of sustainability, increasing our contributions, and all these things tie in together as we look at costs that we anticipate down the road and trying to make sure that we're putting enough away at the present time.
Okay, all right. So I'm assuming if there's anything specific to any property, that it'll be noted in the financial reporting. But will you be drawing our attention to it in particular?
Through you, Chair, to the Mayor, it does depend on what the item is, whether it's material to the financial statements as a whole, because it could be a small amount, it could be large. But other than that, for example, when we did present our 2023 financial statements, we did have discussion about asbestos in buildings, what some of the items were. So we would continue to talk to council, explain what the changes are in the financial statements, and provide some background information.
Including the potential need for funding to address the issue?
I think it all rolls in together, sorry. So the challenge is we have the asset management plan, we have the asset retirement obligations, we have our capital forecast and our budget. So all of those pieces of information are feeding together, and they haven't fully all come together into one place. So I think actually in 2025, when we have the asset management plan reach its final financial stage, I think that's where we're really going to see more of a clear number in terms of what the cost of maintaining and rehabilitating our assets are. But the asset retirement obligation in the financial statements is one piece of that that would help to inform it.
Okay, all right, we'll look for that. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Mary Stin. Next, we have Councillor Mikulik. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Through you to Charlotte. Just curious with respect to assets, in particular real estate, is there ever a case, or what would a municipality do in the case of a piece of real estate that might have unknown costs associated with that ownership of real estate or the disposal of it? How would a municipality account for that?
Charlotte, please go ahead.
Through you, Chair, to the counselor. I would say under the accounting standards, we have to have, it has to be what we call reasonably estimable. Like, it has to be something we actually can make an estimate of. So as I mentioned in my answer to the mayor, sometimes we look at items like age, circumstances that we're aware of, studies that have been done, and we take all of those pieces of information and then we come up with what's an estimate. So the asset retirement obligation, it is an estimate. It's not always known with certainty. We don't always know what year that asset retirement obligation would be settled. We don't know exactly what it would cost, but we estimate it to the best of our ability.
Thank you. I asked that question, when you look at site remediations of properties that may have had contaminants such as gas stations or, we've replaced fuel tanks recently ourselves, and, the unknown is truly unknown, and I'm just, that's what brought me to thinking about that question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. There being no further discussion, I have a motion moved by Councillor Reimer that committee receive and file report FN-21-24 regarding the asset retirement obligation policy, and that committee recommend that council approve the proposed asset retirement obligation policy as attached as Appendix A, and that the committee recommend that council adopt the proposed asset retirement obligation policy to come into effect on the date approved by council. I will now ask our legislative committee coordinator to open the vote.
That vote is now open. That vote is closed, and that carries. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Deanna. Next, we will consider Report LS-04-24, 2025 meeting schedules for council and committees. Do members of committee have any questions? Okay. Looks like lots of questions. Councillor Reimer, you're up first.
Thank you, Chair Timmers. Through you to our clerk's department. The new format where we split up the committee of the whole meetings, as you mentioned in the report, I think that's gone really well. There's been a lot of instances where I think it gives our planning, the people who come to speak at planning, a better opportunity to express themselves. They're not doing it at 11:30 at night sometimes. I think it's just everything about the meetings are better. So I want to thank them for taking that initiative. And just with regards to the motion itself, reading through option one, the schedule of the meetings, more so the timing of some of those. I can appreciate definitely the background and the reasons for some of those times. The 2:00 start date for the committee of the whole and the budget meetings for myself takes me out of quite a few of those meetings. So that's on a personal level. I think if hopefully there's a trend starting with budget committees and we keep on getting that flood of people showing up to them, I think maybe the 6:00 meeting for budgets too gives more people. And again, I'm not a shift worker, so maybe shift work and people's schedules are different. But I think that gives the most opportunity for most of our residents to get to those meetings. And sorry, Chair, I do have a question after this. The 4 o'clock start date isn't mentioned in either of these options. Is that not something we can work into? Like, do you need a fixed time frame through you, Chair, to the clerks? Or is that something, because I know we've had workshops in the past at 4 o'clock, and that seems to work for workshops especially, maybe even some of our meetings, maybe in the summer, I don't know, but just through to you, if that 4 o'clock, I don't see it here in in either option mentioned.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. So you're looking to the workshop time.
Oh, just the 4 o'clock time in general for
Okay.
everything, yeah,
Okay.
for anything.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you, and through you, Chair, to the counselor. So I would say that we can work in any time. It's the 4 o'clock workshop can be a standalone if that time has worked in the past, which I believe it has. And if a motion wanted to be put on the floor to amend the 2 o'clock start time to be a 4 o'clock start time, you can put that amendment on the floor as well. Yeah, I mean, we're just taking into account, this was had at the budget deliberations, and so we were looking at cost-saving measures in terms of overtime occurred. And so holding them before 4:30 is always a cost-saving measure. But I'm in council's hands as to whatever it works best for council, but also taking into consideration the engagement of the public.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Yeah, I just bring that up, I would prefer 6 o'clock for everything, but I realize that's just speaking to my own, time frame so I would opt or lean towards option 2, but again, open to discussion and whatever else has to say. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Next, we have Counselor Bernay.
Thank you, Chair Timmers. So through you, so echoing Councillor Reimer's comments, I think, when I look around the horseshoe, I think probably almost half of our council are still working full-time with a commitment to their employer, I'm sure. So I think this potentially, from a council perspective, could be looked at as a problem. But I'm wondering, through you, Chair, to the clerk, when I look at moving a committee of the whole meeting to 2 o'clock, I think that could be problematic from the opportunity for people to come and delegate, for people to come to present that are working full-time, people that are coming here representing organizations that might work in St. Catharines, and to come here to Lincoln Chambers for 2 o'clock in the afternoon for a delegation or presentation could be problematic. And I'm just wondering if that process has been thought out, and if there's a comment from our clerk's department with regards to, the negative aspect that might lead forward to.
Thank you, Counselor. Through to you, Madam Clerk.
Through the chair to the counselor. So we have considered everything in terms of engagement to the public, in terms of delegations. And one of the rationale that was based on what I put forward was it was an ask to review. It's definitely not written in stone, so an amendment can be made. But when we took a look at the number of delegations that we've had for the 2024 year, we've had 59 delegations to the Planning and Development agenda, which is separate, and that is proposed to stay at 6 p.m. We've had one delegation to the GBNF agenda, which was, they were invited to attend. We've had 2 delegations this year to the CSI, and we've had 0 for budget and 8 for council. So when I say that certain ones are not being changed, it's because we've had more engagement in terms of people wanting to attend in person. So again, the planning agenda remains at 6 p.m. Council remains at 6 p.m. And just the other changes were to the general committee of the whole meetings, which were included to be CSI and GBNF, as well as budget.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, appreciate those comments. The last thing I would just put out is that, there has been considerable conversation over the last little while about, the opportunity for people to run for elected office. And, we're midterm, to make these changes in midterm. I'm not so sure of the fairness to the people that this impacts the most. Myself, I am not working full-time, but I certainly have lots on my plate, and I've worked to change my schedule around attending evening meetings. I look at Councillor Foster, who's made a great effort to come here to report back from Lincoln Council. I'm wondering, how that might affect him coming here at 2 o'clock if he has responsibilities at the region. So I'm just looking at this and just wondering, if it's appropriate to be doing it midterm, and then looking at an election in 2026, to move meetings to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I really feel that, there's a whole demographic of people from 25 to 65 that could be looking at this and saying, well, geez, I was looking at, running, putting my name in the hat in election, but if meetings are going to be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe they think differently. So I'm just looking at it from all angles, all perspectives. Personally, I'm pretty flexible, but I'm just trying to be cognizant of how it might impact others. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So council meetings would still remain at 6 p.m.
Got it.
Okay, so next we have Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Timmers, and thank you to staff for looking at this. I had, suggested this at the budget, but was wondering, and I think Madam Clerk said we could make a motion to modify it, because, and Councillor Ryman and Councillor Brunet have both said, 2 o'clock is a bit problematic for me, thinking some of the days where I'm out in the nether regions, I would probably have to pull over on the side of the road, and I could do it remotely. So wondering if there was an appetite, to go 5 o'clock or even 4:30, if that would be amenable. So whether we make a motion to do that, Chair Timmers, after everyone's talked, right? So that would be my compromise, because, the report is written either 2 or 6, but it's nice to hear that Madam Clerk says we can make some adjustments if necessary. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And that's council's purview. We can make the adjustment. 4 o'clock workshop seems to work, so that's just my comment on there. I see Councillor Russell. You're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to council. I would agree with the sentiments raised so far. Again, a 2 o'clock start, would limit me personally. I wouldn't be able to attend any meeting at 2 o'clock. Again, I think to Councillor Bernet's point, I think that's going to potentially limit the number of potential people who are interested in running in future elections. So I would be amenable to an earlier start time. Again, 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30 doesn't make a difference. All would work in that post-work schedule. So I'm happy to hear what the rest of council thinks, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Councillor Rajima, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. It's funny because when I was looking at this, Madam Clerk was talking about the planning committees needing to be consistent at 6 p.m. because there's the most delegations at planning committee, and I kind of thought about it the opposite. I kind of thought that might be the one that you want to shake up so that people who work different shifts will have an opportunity to attend and if they need to. So it's an interesting way of looking at that. That's not my question, but it's funny because that's the way I looked at it. I thought that's the one that has the most delegations. That's the one that should maybe alternate times so that people can attend. If they work nights, people can attend if they have a flexible schedule. If they have a flexible schedule, they can attend anything. But if they work nights, maybe they can attend during the day. And further to Councillor Brunet's point about the election, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking that those considering running for election, I think no matter what you do with the meeting schedule, there's going to be somebody that says, that's limiting me, I can't do that. You have the meetings at night, they're looking, going, I work, I have children, I work at night, whatever, I can't go. You have them during the day, I can't go because I work during the day, or I have to pick up my kids, or whatever you do. So what's really important, I think, for the next term of the election, so that people that are interested run, is that they're aware that it's that council that makes the schedule, it's not us. We can do whatever we want right now, but the next term, you could change it all completely, right? So I have a question about that. I'll say what, I'm in support of either, because again, it's got to make sense for everybody here right now, from all perspectives, and the public, of course, which you've all considered. For me, I'm pretty flexible, so I could go with either one, but it's got to make sense to the most of council, and I think that, the people that are working during the day, it's not working for them, so I would be in favor of keeping it as it is, which is number 2, through you, Madam Chair. And so my question is there an opportunity to share that information with the public, and how could we do that and let them know at election time when they're thinking of putting their name forward that, you don't have to stick to this schedule. They might look at it and say, I can't do that. No, you might not be able to do this, but the next council will have the opportunity whenever they want to completely change that schedule, and that might pique their interest further. They might ask more questions about what their next steps might be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rajima. Some good points made. Okay, I'm sorry, I missed
It's
your
okay.
question
It was a
completely.
question. That's how can we make sure that information is shared during at the
Very
beginning
good.
of the next election
You know,
period?
when I was running an election, I had no idea what time the meetings were at.
Yeah,
And
but-
it didn't even faze me, but
Oh, yeah.
we'll put that through to Madam Clerk, and she can answer.
But if you're working straight nights or straight
know,
days, you're going to want to know, right?
Everyone's going to have a conflict with some time.
That's
I
right.
guess, at some
Yeah.
point.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Chair, through you to the councillor. So, no, great comments all around. And every year, council decides what the following schedule is going to be, and you have to approve that schedule leading into that year. So, plenty of time for that. I would like to say that, in an election year, especially when it's during the nomination time, we have a candidates' night. And as, some of you are, well, I think all of you are aware of what those candidate nights hold. And they're information sessions. Last election, Councillor Murray was one of those candidates that came out to candidates night. And it was an information session held by the province on what it means to run in a municipal election. And we have packages available for people. There's advertising, there's communications, and all of that will be involved in really kind of trying to get the word out about the election and what you can expect as a candidate if elected. So all of that information is shared well in advance. But as council said, everybody's got different needs, different wants, and really it's the council that sets the schedule. So, during that orientation session and after inauguration, we approve the schedule, and then, we go from there. And council can make any modifications at any time. So this is not set in stone. Council can make any modifications to its procedural bylaw. And the start times and change committees and whatnot. And so all of this is amenable for sure.
Clarification question, Madam Chair?
Yep, go ahead.
So what I'm asking is if we can make that really clear at the very beginning of the process, that the schedule is not going to limit you or may not limit you. Because if you look into it further and decide, well, maybe I can make it work, and the decision is up to council when I'm elected and when we're all sitting around this table, can we make that really clear at the beginning, and how would we do that? And also, when is that meeting that you were talking about, the orientation meeting that Councillor Murray attended? Is that right at the beginning where you're considering putting your name in, which is what, February, I think? So, is it? Yeah.
It was before you make the decision to run.
Yeah, so before the nomination period opens?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Can you, turn your mic off?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor McLick.
Thank you very much, Chair Timmers. Through you to Julie. Thank you for, throwing all these scenarios out there for us. Time is a commodity, and there is value to it, and, being as careful and efficient with it as possible, I think is important, and it's good to see that you're doing that for all of us. 4 o'clock meeting, or 2 o'clock meeting might be a little tough. That's my opinion. 4:30, 4 o'clock, like I would go with the flow on that. I'm fine with that. The question I have is, because time and calendar placeholders there's value to that. How many meetings have we canceled because we didn't have enough items on an agenda?
Madam Clerk?
Because I ask that because when I see that on my calendar, I dedicate that night to that meeting or that afternoon or whatever it may be. So I personally find I've said no to other meetings or I've said no to other opportunities because I've held that I put value to that meeting. So I'm just curious, do we have that stat?
Okay, thank you, Counselor.
Yeah, I think approximately 3 we've canceled.
3.
Yeah, I wouldn't say more than that, but I think it's approximately 3. And one of them, if I'm not mistaken, was due to the fact that council had to attend AMO, one of them. So, or I could be wrong, maybe it was FCM. I'm just thinking off the top of my head about that because the stat I don't actually have readily available in front of me. But I think it's been about 3
Okay.
for the year.
Thank you for that. And then with respect to the length of the meetings, have we been tracking the lengths of the meetings to see if we're running long, if we're running short? Like, could we have combined the planning with I know that there was a couple of recent meetings that were definitely long. But could we have combined all 3 committees into one meeting?
Thank you, Counselor. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thanks. Through the chair to the councillor. So we have. So there's been times where we've separated the planning out, because as you know, councillor, planning is probably the biggest time that we spend in our meetings, just based on the agenda items and the items in itself. So those have been separated, but there has been times where we have included planning with the general committee of the whole meetings. So we combine where we can, and I work with also CLT every couple of weeks on an agenda forecast for the year, and we look at efficiencies and areas where we can make the most of everybody's time.
No, fantastic. No, you're juggling many hats there, that's for sure. And then with my final question through you, Chair, is there'd be some associated cost savings and staff overtime. Not getting into an HR discussion, or I'm not familiar, but how I don't understand. My understanding was that if staff, what are the hours of staff in terms of meeting expectations or time expectations per week? How does that, is it a typical 8 to 5:30? Is it a 9 to 4? Is it a noon to 9? How does that all look? Or is that not a question that I should be asking right now?
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Madam Clerk, are you?
I'll
prepared
try to
that?
answer.
Okay.
You know,
And I see our CAO nodding as well, so.
Yeah, I think it really does depend, Counselor. I mean, I don't think public servants are an 8:30 to 4:30. Is it that way all the time? I would say no. But we do where we can fit everything in and juggle as best as we can and work with our directors and our CAO to handle our priorities as best as we can. I would say that if I'm keeping it strictly to council and committee meetings here, I would say that you have CLT that attends pretty much every meeting. And we have some staff that are mandatory, IT and clerks that are here. Not all of my staff incur overtime. That's probably as far as I could go on that one. But I mean, we look at where we must have staff. If it's talking to a report that's needed to support that report and give information to council. I mean, we definitely don't look to abuse the overtime at all, I would say. I think that we're always looking at ways to best support council in whichever way possible.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Over to our CAO. I see you nodding over there. Go ahead, Mike.
Through you, Madam Chair, to members of council, I think Julie did a good job answering the question. I don't have a considerable amount to add. We are paid on 7-hour days, 35-hour work weeks. It is very clear in the job descriptions of corporate leadership team that we work outside of those hours, and we're not being paid overtime and those sorts of things. Is there an ability at times, if we're here till 12, 11:30, as we do with some meetings, to flex our time? Absolutely. But I would say, we try to let people have their weekends. We try to let people have, time. We try to have that work-life balance. I wouldn't want council to get caught in this is simply about savings. I think it's about how do we look at the process? How do we look at meetings? How do we make them, I think, a little bit more efficient for everyone? And so these are suggestions. I think as we've heard, what we included here were just suggestions. We're always in council's hands, especially with things like these types of meetings, but not all our staff are non-union, and not all of our staff don't get paid overtime, and we do have some unionized staff in some positions that are paid overtime, and so those are costs. They're small costs, so I wouldn't want you to get focused on the cost piece of why we're bringing this forward. Sometimes we hear things, we talk to a number of you individually and collectively, and these are ideas that come forward. So if there's a way to be a little more efficient and maybe do things a little bit better and create an appropriate balance for everyone, then I think those are things that we should explore. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. CAO.
No,
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. I think every night that we're here, we're not with our families, so I know myself, I've been pretty busy, and I'm just a counselor, and I don't think I'm going to be home much. I wasn't home much last week, and I don't know if I'm going to be home much this week. So I do think it's a tough job to try to manage schedules and calendars for not just staff, but council and everybody, as well as the residents. So thank you for those honest and bringing those honest answers and this honest discussion.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Easton, you're next. Please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I can go at the end because Councillor Patriva hasn't
Okay.
spoken.
He has. Oh, okay. Yeah, if you can come back. Okay, did you want to come back in? Yes? Okay, Patriva, and then.
I'll be here when the meetings are, but I'm not working. And so I think that the suggestions that are being made on around 4:30 or 5 are quite reasonable, but I will be here when everyone else is here. So it's good that we're having this conversation. Sometimes starting at 4:30 or 5, excuse me, if we're having a council meeting, isn't a bad idea for an extra budget meeting. So that's, stacking meetings isn't a bad idea. Now I will have to come back in. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Patriva.
Thank you, Chair Timmers. Well, I was just going to make, like I said, a motion that we amend the 2025 Council and Standing Committee meeting calendar to have Committee of the Whole, GBF, CSI, and Budget Committee have a 5 p.m. start.
Okay. So,
And the rest will start at 6.
6, yeah.
okay. So,
Workshops also start at 6? Yes.
okay. So, Councillor, you're saying CSI, GBF, and workshops and budget workshops, all starting at 5 p.m. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
And the rest staying at 6 p.m.?
Yes, yeah,
you
Committee of the
putting-
Whole, Committee of the Whole Planning.
Yes.
And Council at 6. Yeah.
So the only change is CSI, GBF, and workshops would be at 5 p.m. and budget workshops.
So it would be option 3.
Okay, are you putting an amendment
Yes.
forward? Okay. Mary Easton, did you hear the details around the amendment? That Councillor Pachariva is putting an amendment on the floor, that Council Committee of the Whole Planning stay at 6 PM, GBF, CSI workshops and budget workshops, or budget, sorry, at 5 PM. Okay? Did I get that correct, Counselor?
Yeah, yes.
Correct, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Timmers.
Okay. So we have an amendment. Counselor Russell, are you speaking to the amendment?
I have a second amendment.
Okay, you're seconding the amendment, okay.
No, I have a second amendment.
Oh,
Additional amendment, my apologies, Madam Chair.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
after we vote.
thank you, all right. So, I need some direction. Are we going to the second amendment? Or do we need to address the first amendment on the table? What are we doing?
Sorry, is there any more questions to the First Amendment?
Okay, so we have, okay, one moment. Okay, so Councilor Regima is going to speak to this first amendment that Councilor Pachariva put. Okay, Councilor Regima, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I like this idea, and I like it particularly because I'm pretty sure we ended up changing the meetings to 6 o'clock at one point because planning was always at the very top of the agenda, the public meetings and the open houses and that, and it's hard for people to get off work if they work during the day, come over and attend and delegate if they can or be involved. So just wanted to comment on that I like this situation. I'm looking forward to
Okay,
voting on it, I
okay.
guess.
Thank you, Councilor. So you're supporting that amendment? Okay, so are we addressing the First Amendment on the table? So do we need to go to a vote? And can you put it up on the screen?
Yes, I will open that now.
Thank you.
I'll put it up on the screen, sorry. And I will open that vote. That vote is closed and that carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Deanna. So now, okay, so we just have everyone's attention. So now we're moving to Councilor Russell. Please go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A second amendment to the amendment. No, I guess just a second amendment to the schedule for council. One of the things that over my tenure I've always had difficulty with, and I've heard from others as well, is that when we do have, because the majority of our meetings are on Mondays, and we have a holiday weekend where our meetings are on that Monday and then get rescheduled for the Tuesday, it often poses difficulty for prior obligations because we do set our personal lives around our council schedule, and moving the meetings from the Monday to the Tuesday can cause strife, I know, for some councilors that I've spoken with, and also from some staff as well. So I'd like to make an amendment. Again, I've gone through the schedule. We have 4 times when, because of a long weekend, our meetings get moved to a Tuesday. One is a planning meeting, 2 are GBNF and CSI, and 1 is a workshop. So I've talked to the clerk's department to see if there are any issues with legislative requirements as far as planning goes. It seems to be pretty minimal. So I am making an amendment so that when we have a holiday or a meeting on a holiday Monday, that meeting that would normally be rescheduled for the Tuesday is canceled, and the work is dispersed amongst the other prior or subsequent meetings that are currently scheduled. So basically canceling the Tuesday meetings after a long weekend.
Okay. I'll have to put this through to Madam Clerk. I'm just wondering about timing on some applications, if they can be just canceled and moved to another meeting. So, to Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through the chair to the counselor. So we already have a draft forecast agenda prepared for the year with some reports that we know of that are coming up, and I meet on a bi-weekly basis with CLT. And so any kind of reports that are requiring a legislative timeline that be dealt with then in there, we can deal with that at the time. And we, again, you know, as Councillor Miklick had suggested, combine where we can. So I don't see any issues in doing that. And you know, reports can also be fit into, if it's deadline driven, we'll find a place for it, for sure. And we'll work with CLT to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we have another amendment. So Deanna, when you're ready, if you can put that up on the screen.
Thank you, Chair.
Do we need someone to second? No. No, okay, so we just need to put it up on the screen and put it to a vote.
Thank you. I'll put that up on the screen now. And that vote is open.
Okay,
That vote is closed, and that carries. Thank you.
thank you very much. Okay, so I'm not seeing any further discussion, and I'm going to need a new motion to reflect these amendments. Pardon me? Well, I have it in front of me, but it's going to need some changing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll put that motion up on the screen. And that vote is open. That vote is closed, and that carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, everyone. We will now consider Report LS-08-24, Ad hoc and Committee Update. Do members of committee have any questions? Councillor Murray, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. Through you to, I think, the Clerk's Department. The report references all of the committees that we currently have in play, and it notes TVTA as one of those committees. And I just wanted to know if TVTA is still actually a committee that we are, that is it still alive? I don't know the right phrase. Is it still a committee that is active?
Well, it will be changing shortly, so I will turn that over to Director Deanne to answer that.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the councillor. So, councillor, the TVTA is still an organization. As members of council know, we are reformulating that organization to a joint DMO with the City of St. Catharines. In fact, we just had an update meeting with the current board and have done some changes as we move into electing a new board for the AGM in most likely Q1 of next year, at which point we will be coming back to council just to reaffirm the councilors' membership on that organization and their representative. So it is still active and will become more active in the new year.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, if I can clarify? So when you say it will become more active, TBTA will, so our piece of the DMO is still going to be called TBTA?
No, we've actually gone through a name change, Councillor, so we'll reflect that in the documentation, but more active in the sense of more regular meetings.
Okay, fair enough, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rajima?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just looking at, I was reading through it, and I see that it lists the Committee of Adjustment as an advisory board, and I'm just wondering if there's a more appropriate category for it, because I know that you do have different definitions in there, and the Committee of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial committee. So I'm wondering if under boards potentially might be a better category for it.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Madam Clerk?
Sure. So the counselor is right. It is a quasi judicial committee. However, it is mostly captured in the municipal industry under an advisory committee, in that the members are appointed. And so that's why it's captured in that particular field.
Okay, fair enough. That was it, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
thank you, Counselor. Counselor Mikulik?
Thank you very much, Chair Timmers. Through you to our clerk, have we looked at the meeting times for these meetings, moving them to an afternoon? I feel like a lot of these folks are retired, or, we have a lot of people that apply to be on these committees, at least the ones that I've been a part of. Like, should we be considering perhaps having these committees be more of an afternoon nature?
Thank you, Counselor. Through you to, or through myself to so much talking going on in the horse show, you don't know who's
Thanks,
sharing.
Chair.
ahead,
Through
Madam.
you to the counselor. So there is a definite mix, but I would say that depending on the committee, most of them do work. And so there is no proposed changes at this time.
Okay, I find that interesting that, that wouldn't be looked at, but we're working, a lot of us are working, and we were considering moving our meetings to 2 p.m. So that, I find that interesting, and maybe perhaps we can look at that again, like before the next term of council or the next groups of committees are formed. Another question I have with respect to this report is some of the wording that's in this report and how it's detailed. The role of staff, one of the paragraphs, page 4 of 5, there's a paragraph here, the role of staff is a subject matter expert and liaison on behalf of the corporation, and advisory committee members do not direct staff. It is a responsibility of the volunteers to undertake the work. We interview these people, and we sit on these boards, and we sit on these committees, and they all seem to have PhDs and doctorates, and I'm always impressed and amazed by the level of expertise they have. What is a subject matter expert with respect to the municipality and with respect to the committee members themselves?
Thank you, Counselor. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Through you to the counselor. So the subject matter expert is the staff liaison, right? So they're the professionals with the designations that are assisting these committees, these volunteer committees. The citizens that volunteer to be part of these committees, we normally ask for a rounded experience in which they are requesting to volunteer for through the recruitment process, if they've got some understanding of what the committee does. So you would see that with the, for instance, the tree canopy, or if you take a look at the museum or the library. So, through the recruitment process, which, Councillor, you've been part of numerous times, we're typically looking for people who have a general understanding of what they're volunteering for. But the subject matter experts is pretty much the staff. who are assisting these committees.
Okay, so with that response, and again, like, I think these committees are important, and I think that the value of the expertise that they bring to the committees are important. Why would we have these committees?
Why do we have the committees?
Yeah,
They're directed by council.
okay.
Council appoints them, council undertakes them, council would put it to the floor in which that they would want to have these committees. So it's not that staff create them, it's that council creates these committees.
Okay, so, okay, that's
Counselor?
an interesting response, all right. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Mayor Easton.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, and I'm not sure how far we're going to go with this report, but I'm looking at page 82, under the advisory committees. And I know that we made some changes with age-friendly and active community advisory committee, which was active transportation. I don't know whether the members of the committee or the staff who advise the committee, or whether members of council believe that that change is meeting the needs at the present time. It could be that you don't want to talk about this at this time, and that's all right. So maybe I should clarify that first. Do you wish to speak to the terms of reference of any of the committees that are existing?
You know, Mayor Easton, it's not really something that's part of this report, but I will leave it to Madam Clerk to comment.
Okay.
To direct us with that. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Chair. Through you to the mayor. So each committee undertakes their mandate and their terms of reference, and they review it. However, I will say that when council is creating a committee, staff do work with the council in terms of the priorities that they want to achieve. And so there is a draft terms of reference that's always included, upon which that council approves those terms of references. So if there's any changes to the terms of reference, that's based on council approval. And so when we do a yearly review, we're always taking a look at, is this committee achieving its mandate? Is this committee meeting the needs of the terms of reference and so forth? So those are always reviewed, and every term of council, we also do a review of those as well.
Okay. Is it appropriate for us to examine the terms of reference of any committee at this point in the term?
Madam Clerk?
So, thank you, through you to the mayor. I'm not proposing any changes currently to any terms of reference. I'm just proposing tonight that we have a policy before you, which gives council tools in case they want to create, amend, change, dissolve any type of committee, ad hoc, or standing committee. So this is just a policy before you tonight to give you the tools in order to do so moving forward.
Okay, so the problem, Madam Chair, is that I'm beyond I've asked 2 questions. Will you entertain a third question?
Absolutely.
If that is the case, then what process is being recommended for us to actually have that discussion?
Madam Clerk? I'm thinking when the review will
When
be
the
reviewed.
when the review is being put forward to council, or at council's request. So, all of these committees are really kind of created by council. So, at council's request. And so we always have a yearly review, and that is actually forthcoming in Q1 of 2025 on the achievements and the successes of what these committees have achieved thus far.
Great, that's
Okay, so-
that's what I'm looking for. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
I
Thank you,
think
Madam
that answers your questions as well. So the review will be coming in the
Great, thank you very
Q1
much.
of the new year, so.
Thank you,
Mary
Madam
Stan.
Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay. Oh, I see our CAO. Go ahead, Mike.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to pick up maybe a little bit on the question that was asked before around what is the role of a committee? And, you know, I was thinking about that question when you asked it and had made some notes because I was having a conversation over here, so I do apologize. And I think what I wanted to say is that committees do provide a very valuable input. At the end of the day, staff are directed by council, but committees are not there to direct staff, and that shouldn't be seen as a negative, or it shouldn't be seen in some way that it's us versus the committee, or us versus council, or any sort of, I think, conflict like that. They're there in advisory capacity to council for your consideration. And yes, staff are the subject matter experts. I think I stand behind that comment. Just because someone has a master's degree or a doctorate and is sitting on a committee, I think they provide incredibly good information, but they don't understand necessarily the way the town of Lincoln is working or the way this particular topic is working, and there's obviously different elements to that. So we're here to implement council's priorities and the associated work plans that we bring to you. But again, I'll highlight, I think committees provide very valuable insight into those respective areas. And I've been on a number of them where great ideas have come forward. I've always said to you, I think great ideas come from all parts of the organization, top to bottom, and all parts of the community. We can't think of everything, despite being subject matter experts. So, you know, new ideas come forward. Again, we're not thinking of them all. So I don't want council to think we don't value the role of committees. We do. The same breadth, I think that working relationship between committees and staff is also important, and that reciprocal respect of the subject matter expertise needs to be there. So just wanted to make those clarifying comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. Councillor Bernay, I see you're in the queue. Please go ahead.
Yeah, very quickly, through you, Chair Timmers. So good conversation. Appreciate the CAO's last comments there. With regards to the review that is being highlighted that will take place in Q1, through you, Chair, to the Clerk's Department, a lot of these advisory committees that undertake mandated work require some sort of budgets to be allocated for them. So would, you know, obviously we've gone through our budget period now, but would that review period be an appropriate time to look at budgets for certain advisory committees that might be need to be looked at? Would that be an appropriate time through you, Chair, to the clerk?
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
So the budget has been approved for 2025 for these committees. And the review is more of an update to council on what the committees have achieved for in their in 2024. So that's what I mean by a review. But the budget has already been approved by council for 2025.
Through you, Chair, yes, I'm well aware of that, Madam Clerk. I'm just wondering, you know, moving forward, when we do reviews, would budget allocation be looked at that review period, or would it have to wait until the next budget that would take place in 2025 for 2026? That's basically my question, through you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor.
And we can provide that.
Okay. Councillor? Good? Perfect. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I also had a question about the budgeting process. And by that, I mean that if there's going to be an event planned, I believe it would be a good idea if we actually clarified what that budget process is. Is the budget process the submission of the budget for the for the project and the approval through council, since I don't believe that these committees would have the authority to make those decisions, that needs to be clarified, so I would ask if that is something that is reasonable to consider in a future, for future consideration. And the second question that I have is around where a master plan exists. I don't want to pick on transportation, but there are some great opportunities through the transportation master plans to do really unique things. However, having a master plan, if it's a parks master plan and we've decided that we want to have a select committee to look at a certain park initiative, how do we expect that to be done? Is the master plan the set of rules that is being followed by the committee? Or are they in a position to be able to change what those recommendations are? I don't want to talk about it tonight. I just want to ask the question if our discussion will be quite far-reaching when we come to it.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mary Stin. I see our CAO wants to add some comments there.
Through you, Madam Chair, or to the mayor, I think the way I'd answer that question is, we should provide you with some clarity on how those monies or recommendations get expended. I know how I see that working out in terms of having a work plan or having a plan like a transportation master plan and getting input on certain things. So maybe something we can lay out for you in a little bit of a roadmap, how that will work.
I mean, Madam Chair, I will say that I think that these committees should be fun for people. The whole idea is to be able to get involved in the community and not live by a tight bureaucracy, but at the same time, really have enjoyment over them. And we haven't had that for a long time. And for a long time, we didn't have any committees at all. We didn't have any advisory committees. So we've been working this through for the last 10 years, and we could probably do some tune-ups, and maybe we can get some additional ideas from the people that have been sitting on the committees, because, and I'll just repeat it, I think committees of this type should be a lot of fun. It's how your community really starts to demonstrate who they are. It can't be done if it's always being streamed through the same needle. It just doesn't work. So I look forward to the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Stin. I do appreciate your comments, and I know we are looking at different models for some of our committees as well, and we do have a Housing Select Committee, which is a different model. So, looking at the budget behind it and how it works, I think is something that would be very valuable to look at. So, did you need to add anything? You're good, and thank you, Mr. CAO, for your comments. Okay. There being no further discussion, I have a motion moved by Councillor Rajima that committee receive and file for information report LS-08-24 regarding ad hoc and committee update, and the committee approve the draft committee policy as attached in Appendix A, and that the committee approve the 2025 committee calendar as attached in Appendix B. I'll now ask Deanna to open the vote.
That vote is now open. That vote is closed, and that carries. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. We will now consider report LS-06-24, ward boundary review and council composition update. So we have 3 parts to this. So the main part is to receive and file the report, approve the budget, the project scope, and approve, where are we? I think that's about it. So any questions to this report? I'm seeing, Councillor Russell. There we go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to the Clerk's Department, I'm assuming. A couple questions. The first, on page 2, where it talks about the different levels of engagement, the first phase of engagement is the interviews with stakeholders. Can you just clarify who those stakeholders are going to be? I know there's reference in there to discussion with staff, interviews with council. Is that portion of it that would be in phase 1?
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
That's exactly right. So through you to the counselor, it would be CLT and council, and anybody else that the consultant feels that they need to involve.
Okay, thank you. And second question, Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Through you, probably again to Madam Clerk. On page 3, there's reference in the first line, during these sessions, alternative ward boundaries, maps, and governance models will be available for public review. I just want to make sure that we're clear that we are going to be entertaining potential options, or at least or getting input on alternative governance models beyond just what we have currently. So again, and what I'm thinking of again, we're going to get feedback from stakeholders, feedback from the public on, again, potential amalgamation, or is it going to be open discussion and have them bring back their thoughts? Like, how's that going to work?
Madam Clerk.
The consultant will undertake a study first of what we currently have, and base it on, population, our size, geography, numerous things that will be involved in that study. From there, that consultant will build different options and models based on what they think based on input, but also based on industry standard, if you will, on the various models. So you'll have various things, and it'll look differently with each model, and then that'll be a base for input on really what the public as well as the stakeholders feel.
So to clarify through you, Madam Chair, so are they going to be looking at options beyond just that of the town of Lincoln? Again, are they going to be entertaining?
This is just based on the town of Lincoln, Councillor. We don't have any direction from the province to look at anything further outside of our own jurisdiction.
Can we not, through you, Madam Chair, can we not solicit feedback from the public on their thoughts on alternative government models or governance models?
Mr. CAO, Madam Clerk is directing me to you to comment. Sorry, I forgot my mic.
That's okay. Through you, Madam Chair, to the counselor. I think, Counselor, when we go out to people often, we have more generalized areas on our engagement mechanisms and platforms where we probably could ask a question like that. I think we do need to remain as scoped as possible, but I think there is an opportunity for the public to share with us other ideas they may have, and that may be useful, thinking about some of the other committees council wants to potentially strike and have a conversation on.
Okay, thank you. And just to sum it up, again, I think there is an opportunity, if we are going out and soliciting feedback and getting stakeholder input, that we at least get a broad temperature check on what the public feels about, again, amalgamation or alternative governance models outside of what Lincoln currently provides. Again, not direction-wise, but just to see what the feeling is out there. I think if we are going and spending this money and getting consultants, I think we should at least entertain those options. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bernay?
Thank you, Chair. So just reading the report, all good information. I think these word boundary reviews should be looked at. It says in the report, through you, Chair, that they're undertaken every 3 or 4 election cycles. So I'm just trying to understand. Like, I know there was a motion that requested that possibly these be looked at. But when I look at, what's in the queue and what's going to be happening over the next, 1 to 2 election cycles, we don't have to look any further than the bottom of Ontario Street, the bottom of Victoria Avenue, and Prudhome's that are in the queue, and things are dramatically going to change. I mean, hypothetically, we could be having, 12,000 people come in the next 2 election cycles. So I'm just wondering, if this is a tad premature, and I just put it out there through you, Chair, to whoever's responsible for this report, I would like to know the information, and the thought process. Because yes, as a council, we had a motion that came forward. I'm just not sure that going out and doing a ward boundary review at this point is going to be actually time sensitive in the next 2 election cycles. And I'd hate to see this be done, put the money towards it, and then future councils are sitting here in 8 years going, we need to do this again. It looks to me a bit premature, but I'd love to hear from staff, their thought process on that.
Okay, thank you, Counselor. Madam Clerk? Mr. CAO?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think to the councilor's question, is it premature? I think anytime we go out and get information like this, it's a positive thing. We're in council's hands. The councilor's right. It was a motion of council. I think some of the things that potentially come out of this, and the clerk can expand on those, is that they do tell us we've got a major growth area and we should wait and look at it. They do tell us those sorts of things. And so, again, I think we were directed to come back with this report. We've got an option here for you. And I think, not knowing what the next, maybe 3 election cycles before we see the full build out of some of these things. So can we continue to kind of course correct along the way? I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but the clerk may have more she wants to add.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mike. Okay, Madam Clerk doesn't have anything to add. Councillor Bernay, you're out of the queue. Okay. All right, Councillor Rajima?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's a report that we have outlining what next steps are, but I'm not sure if I completely understand what the scope is. I shared an email with everybody. I'd asked the clerk earlier on today if we know who the consultant is, and the consultant is Watson and Associates. So I looked up on their website, and they listed as definitely something that they do, and they do fairly regularly. It says, contrary to popular belief, neither the Ministry of Municipal Affairs nor the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, formerly the OMB, has established criteria for conducting an electoral review. Our team has developed a proven framework and process for conducting electoral reviews guided by case law. So I'm wondering if we can see if you could share, somebody can share with us a little bit of an outline of a scope of exactly what we're doing,
Okay.
what they're planning to do, because I haven't really heard that. I've heard sort of what next steps are, but did they provide a scope and an outline of that, exactly what steps
Okay.
they're going to go through you, Madam Chair?
All right, thank you, Councillor. I see our clerk not shaking her head, so go ahead.
So
Madam Clerk.
in the report, it says that if committee approves the exception under the procurement policy, that staff will engage Watson and Associates to conduct the review. We haven't done that yet, Councillor. So I think that's a little premature there, but we haven't yet engaged Watson.
Okay,
It's that we will engage.
right. So I
We will
understand
look
that.
to
Thank
engage
you.
that, and that
Sorry, I
the
didn't mean to
scope,
cut you off.
Oh, that's okay. And that we will take a look at what that review includes, as well as the study. This is just giving you options of what could be included. But keep in mind that once we engage a consultant to undertake what those options could include for council, there's going to be a final report that comes to council based on engagement, stakeholder consultations. And so the final recommendations will be coming from the consultant to council to vote on. And council can definitely postpone. They don't have to necessarily adopt any of what that is. In fact, they can do nothing with it. They could maybe adopt some of it, but there's definitely going to be options for council.
Okay, so question clarity, Madam Chair. So when is that report coming forward? I'm sorry if that's in the report and I'm missing it, but when is that initial report? Let's say, yes, we approve this and move forward with engaging Watson Associates. When will that report come forward outlining what they're proposing to do for us?
Thank you, Counselor. Madam Clerk?
Through the chair, it was stated in the report as Q2 2025.
Q2 is when the report will come out. Okay, so I'm asking these questions because we've already decided to engage them, but we don't really know what they're going to do for us. It sounds like that to me. Because I would think that we have some sort of just a one-page kind of scope outlining exactly what they would do, and because they have a clear process. So do they have something like that?
So, Counselor,
Yeah.
we haven't approved that we are engaging them at this point?
That's not what I'm hearing. Sorry, Madam Chair. I'm
Well-
hearing that once we approve this
Okay.
tonight, we made the decision
Okay,
to
let's-
hire Watson and Associates.
Okay,
So that's
let-
what I'm asking.
Let Madam Clerk speak to this.
Yeah.
So in the recommendation before you, Counselor, so literally council is just approving that you will accept that it will be under the exception under the procurement policy for me to seek professional and expert services. Staff are suggesting that we engage Watson. We haven't yet done that, but we're suggesting that we engage Watson based on, there's been previous studies done for our DCs, which is significant, so they have a background history of our town. And what that looks like. They also have done the school board review as well when the Niagara West School was put in place. So there's a significant history and knowledge there that this particular consultant has. They are currently undertaking 14, to my understanding, boundary reviews across the province. So they have significant knowledge in this particular area. If council doesn't wish me to undertake an exception to the procurement policy for the particular professional and expert services that staff are suggesting, the other option would be that I be directed to go through an RFP process. The reason why I'm suggesting that we take to the exception of the policy, which is outlined in the policy that we can do based on the services of this particular area, is because we're in a tight timeline. So I only have a specific deadline to meet here, if that's what council wants me to do, so that I can have it in place prior to the election. So I'm on a tight timeline. However, if I had to go through an RFP process, it'll be tight, but that'll be something that I will have to undertake.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm not questioning that Watson and Associates' credibility or anything on that, not at all. In fact, again, as you said, they have a history with our community doing our development charges, so they know us well. They know what's coming, so I think that's great. I just was wondering if there would be a little more detail coming to us about what they're going to do and the steps they're going to take. And it sounds like there is going to be in the new year. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Mikulek.
Thank you. Through you to Julie. Busy night. Just curious, in this report, third phase of engagement is, a survey garnering, thoughts. Is it possible to do this prior to moving forward with any of this through Speak Up Lincoln? Because in all honesty, I've not heard from anybody at any time about any sorts of concerns with regards to ward boundaries, council makeup, or any of that. Of all the door knocking I've done, of all the people, not one person has brought this forward to me. And now, having this before us with an estimated cost of $65,000 and the timing, I don't know if, is this the right time?
Okay, thank you. Through to you, Madam Clerk, again.
Thank you. Through you to the councillor. So, I'm putting this report before you tonight based on, there was a notice of motion, and it was requested of staff. And so this is just a report to outline that should you want to undertake this avenue, this is what it would entail, this is what you can expect, and then whatever comes out of that will come in Q2. In terms of what you've heard, Councillor, I can't speak to what you hear at the door. I'm not with you. But I can say that in the years that I have been here, which I'm just coming up to my 8th year and I can't believe it, but I have heard from various residents from time to time during the 2 elections that I have overseen here that there has been some concerns with, and it could be based on where they are in the boundary or whatnot, or it could be that council makeup, it could be, various things, right? And so, and even during the discussions with the provincial talks about potentially maybe amalgamating, there were certain things that were listed in there as well that that were detailed in terms of council representation versus elector population and whatnot. So, I mean, I think it's a good thing to undertake, just to get the numbers out there, but also to get an understanding, are we in line? Are we representing our constituents fairly and equitably across the board? Again, I can't speak to what you hear or what you don't hear, but there was a notice of motion that was put forward, and that's why we have this report tonight.
Okay, and through you, do we have any estimated, like, we hear about like these motions that we put forward and the staff resourcing to, facilitate all these requests that we put upon yourselves, like how much time are we talking about here in terms of staff resources to facilitate an exercise like this? And I'm asking that because I look at all the things that we have, we're asking staff to do, like, from a priority level, like how important is this? Like,
Madam Clerk?
Through you to the counselor, in the simplest of forms, counselor, council sets what the priorities are. And so if council makes this a priority, it's a priority for me. And I work with the CAO on what that looks like in terms of my department and what I have in the particular work plan area for the year. But if council wants to make this a priority, it then becomes mine.
perfect, no, that's why you're here. Thank you very much, appreciate your answers.
Okay, thank you. Mary Easton?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Through you to, I think possibly the CAO. If we're looking at the recommendations in the report, and we wanted to have a session with the consultant to build on the context as it relates to Lincoln before they actually start doing the work. Is that useful, or do we think that it will follow naturally from the process that they would use?
Mr. CAO? Or Madam Clerk, whoever I see.
Through you, Madam Chair, maybe I'll let the clerk jump in. I'm trying to
Okay.
understand the mayor's question. If she means before we make a decision, yes or no, bringing in a consultant to talk to you about what's involved? If that's the question, I would have to, I think, look at if that's feasible and how we do that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm not sure if that's exactly what the mayor's inquiring about, but the clerk may have a better idea.
Madam Clerk?
So rest assured that, when it says the first phase of engagement, rest assured that the consultant is going to take, it says to interview with stakeholders, and that's council, right? And that's the senior leadership team and whatever other stakeholders are identified through that. But your involvement in this is early on, before we even, go out and do the second phase of engagement, which is the public consultation. And so I'm trying to understand where the mayor is coming from in terms of that. But if Mary Easton, if you'll allow, if you mean that you want to have some sort of options or suggest things to be involved in this and prior to us going out to the public, I would think that the consultant is going to take all of your suggestions, all of your input, and put that out when it comes time in the second phase. I'm not sure if that answers the mayor's.
It answers the question, and I'm sorry to be so vague, but I was trying to find an opening where I could help the idea that councillors were expressing a concern that possibly this wasn't necessary. It sounded like maybe we didn't have the context as complete or correct. I was just trying to create an opening so that I would understand better what the concerns were. the purpose of putting the notice of motion forward was really an attempt to be more proactive. It hadn't happened for years. There's a lot of things that there's never a good time to do it. And we don't need to do this now, if that's our choice. But the answer is complete enough in terms of all of those questions, creating that context, being clear, putting, depth to the question that can happen at the stakeholder engagement. I'm satisfied that it will be robust enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary Ston. Councillor Russell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, back to the clerk. Just wondering, again, as far as the boundary, or the board boundaries go, is there any ability to do that review in-house? And the reason I ask, again, to Councillor Bernay's point about, again, the where growth is going to happen and the potential timeline, it's years away. And their CAO reinforced it, that it's very likely that no change is going to happen as far as our internal governance model goes as a result of this. So to me then, one of the big issues that we're trying to get resolved here is making sure that our population that has grown over the last 10, 15 years since the last one was done, are our wards created in a way where it's equal representation by ward by councillors? Is that something that we have the ability to do in-house without having to go to an external consultant and spend the $65,000?
Madam Clerk, did you want to take that, or CAO?
I'll start, and the
Okay.
CAO can jump in where he feels he needs to. So I would recommend that it not be done by staff. And the reason why is because there's various factors involved with this. And when you're doing a study that takes a look at this, there's calculations, there's factors based on this. You have to consider that, there's school board contingencies here, or considerations rather, sorry. It's kind of complex, and I'll be honest with you, I don't have the expertise in order to undertake this. I also think that it's something that is typically done, I would say most of the time, 90% of the time anyway, that is done with a consultant in mind. So they also take a look at models and future models and all of the rest of it. It is quite intricate, Councillor. So it's not something that I can do, or I wouldn't be confident in preparing for council, to be honest with you. And I'm just being honest.
Okay, no, and I appreciate that. And again, it's one of those things where that's the big piece of value I get out of this, is again, that we're realigning to our current population. Because again, we have no idea when the build-out's going to happen. Like ideally, a lot of it would have started already, but just based on some of the policies that the feds are enacting, again, the build-out may be, instead of 2051, it may be 2071, before some of that population targets, we actually start attaining them. So again, if there's no other way to do it but the consultant, again, I'm a little hesitant to spend the $65,000 just for a ward review to see where the population is, but again, I guess it is what it is.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So we haven't had a ward review for 24 years. So, when you look at the population in 2000 and the population now, it's about 5,000 more. So you wonder, how are the wards aligned? I don't know. So I think it would be good to know that information. Okay. I'm not seeing anyone else in the queue. One moment, please. Okay, I have a motion moved by Councillor Reimer that report LS 0624 Ward Boundary Review and Council Composition Update be received and filed as information, and that the committee approve the project scope and direct the town clerk and treasurer to approve an exception under Schedule A, E, subsection 2 for professional and expert services as per the town's procurement policy, and that the committee approves that the budget for the project will be withdrawn from the elections reserves fund. I will now ask our Legislative Committee Coordinator to open the vote.
The vote is now open. The vote is closed, and that carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So at the beginning of the meeting, under the consent agenda, we had Councillor Mikulik, I believe it was you, that lifted the Policies and Procedures Project Update, LS-05-24. So we will now refer to that at this point in the agenda. Did you have a question around the policies report? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair Timmers, through you to Julie. Yeah, thank your staff for doing this. I don't know how long you can do this for before your eyes fall out of your head. It's a lot to read and a lot to digest, so thank you for doing this for us. Question I have is with respect to the policies and the procedures, like, do members of the public have access to those policies and procedures that are all listed there, or are only some of them?
Madam Clerk? Oh. Deanna.
Thank you, Chair. You get to deal with me for this question. So through you to the counselor, yes, some of the policies are posted online publicly. Those are the ones that impact external stakeholders, so the policy impacts the public. Those that are internal remain offline for our staff.
Okay, but just to clarify, if a request is made to your department for a specific policy, it can be, or myself, it can be made available to read in more detail, or would it have to fall under a Freedom of Information request?
Madam Clerk?
Thank you. I think it would depend on the policy, Councillor, but we've made sure that we've captured pretty much all of the public relevant policies, and that is now on our corporate policy website. And so we're trying to really build out our open data and make sure that we are adhering to making as much information public as possible. And so I would say that the majority of the policies are online. Very few are held back for security reasons.
Yeah, understandable.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Okay. Councillor Rajima?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a question about this also. On page 5 of the report is the first page of the Appendix A, and there's a new policy about digital account cybersecurity. So is that, I haven't had a chance to look at that. I don't know what that policy addresses, but I know when we were at AMO, there was discussion, they shared with us, the province, that there's a newly established cybersecurity center of excellence helping educate Ontario government ministries and broader public sector organizations about cybersecurity and best practices to keep Ontarians' information safe and secure, providing advice, etc., information and services to strengthen digital resilience. Have we had any opportunity to take advantage of any of the services that the province is offering through that? And did any of that go into this policy?
Madam Clerk?
So we have had conversations, Councillor, with them, and I will say that in this particular policy, indeed, we can definitely circulate that to Council, but this one, I believe, is not listed on our website. But yes, we have had conversations about that, and I can tell you that our manager of enterprise services is very in tune, as well as with AMO, as well as MISA, our information and security conference networking group. So she's very aware of really what's being put forward by the province and any kind of changes. So we're always, that's always at top of mind right now.
Okay. That'd be great if you could share that policy. It'd be interesting to read. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yep, thank you, Councillor. Mary Ston.
Madam Chair, through you to the clerk, when we talk about the roles of council, one of the major roles that we have is to set policy that is then utilized by the staff to carry out any direction that we provide through a variety of means. And my question is related to whether or not the list that's been provided is the most complete list, or whether, as Devan, when she gets her strength back again, starts to look at this, whether there are other policies that need to go on this list, or is it up to council to identify what those policies might be?
Thank you, Mary Ston. Devan, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Mayor Easton. Yes, absolutely. So this list that is before you now, that is consistent of the policies that we have already reviewed, as well as new ones that have been incorporated for the organization. Staff are still working our way through all of the policies that are here for the town of Lincoln, so more will be added to that list as it goes through the new framework for review or revisions, or newly created, and those will be brought forward to council if council is required to approve those policies, yes. In addition to the second part of your question, council can absolutely direct staff to create a new policy if that is the wish of council pertaining to specific matters.
That's helpful. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Devan. All right, we will now consider agenda item 9, motion to consider, Councillor Russell.
One quick one, thank you, Madam
Almost
Chair. Through you to staff. I didn't see it on here. We do have a flag protocol policy, but do we have a policy regarding the flags? This is obviously the national flag that is mentioned in this policy, but in the flags that we fly outside of Town Hall to support various groups. Again, the reason I asked, we've been asked recently by a few groups just about whether or not we'd be open to flying their flags, and I'm just wondering, do we have a policy on how that is entertained and what we will and will not?
Go ahead, Devan.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the council. Yes, the criteria for community flags is on the public website, so that outlines the criteria that we use to accommodate those flag requests.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. All right, we will now consider agenda item 9, motion to consider confidential items.
Sorry, Chair Timmers, if I could just interrupt, we have to vote on that item.
Fair enough, yes.
I will put it up on the screen, thank you.
Very good, thank you. Okay.
And that vote is now open. That vote is closed, and that carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now consider agenda item 9, motion to consider confidential items. Before I read the motion and we move into closed, I would like to explain what will happen for those watching this meeting online. First, there will be a closed session statement that the Legislative Committee Coordinator will go through for staff that will be attending the closed session remotely. Once that is completed, we'll move on with the motion to move into closed. The Legislative Committee Coordinator will be turning off the live webcast during the closed portion of the meeting. Once we have completed the closed portion of the meeting, we will resume with the live webcast and carry on with the public portion of the meeting, and will read the motions in public session. I will now ask our Legislative Committee Coordinator to conduct the closed session statement for those who are attending the closed session remotely.
Thank you, Chair. All members are reminded that any discussions in closed session are to remain confidential as per our procedural bylaw and our code of conduct for the Council of the Town of Lincoln. Before we begin, I need each member that is attending electronically to confirm the following. that you understand that matters are to remain confidential, confirm no one else is present with you, confirm no one else can hear this closed session, confirm that you are not using any electronic devices other than your tablet, computer, telephone for the video conferencing, and confirm that you are not recording this portion of the meeting. If you acknowledge all of the above, please reply with "I understand" and confirm to all of the statements as I read your name aloud. Town Solicitor Tom Helinski.
I understand and confirm to all of the statements.
Thank you. CEO Lincoln Pelham Public Library Julie Andrews.
I understand and confirm to all of these statements.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a motion moved by Councillor Bernay. Under Section 239 of the Municipal Act, notice is hereby given that committee adjourned to closed session in order to address items 9.1 and 9.2 as follows. Pursuant to Section 239, 2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employee as it pertains to the Lincoln Pelham Public Library Board, and pursuant to Section 239, 2F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose as it pertains to a heritage matter. I will now ask our legislative committee coordinator to open the vote.
That vote is now open. That vote is closed and that carries. Thank you.
Great, thank you. If you could now proceed with the technical requirements to move us into closed session, please. I have a motion moved by Councilor Rajima that committee resume in open session. I will now ask our Legislative Committee Coordinator to open the vote.
That vote is now open.
Building up the drama there.
I was waiting for the drum roll.
That vote is closed, and that carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a motion moved by Councilor Mikulik that committee receive and file the confidential updates and that staff move forward as directed in closed session as it relates to item 9.1 pursuant to section 239, subsection 2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employee. Sorry?
Sorry, no, I was saying this again at the motion, I'm not sure if it's up yet, but, okay, all right, good.
Okay. Including municipal employee as it pertains to the Lincoln Pelham Public Library Board. And 9.2 pursuant to section 239 subsection 2F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose as it pertains to a heritage matter. I will now ask our Legislative Committee Coordinator to open the vote.
That vote is now open. And that is closed, and that carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deanna. Do we have any committee remarks? I am seeing none. There being no further business, I call this meeting adjourned.